Yo guys, what's going on? It's Rose here, bringing you BBR Week 8 versus DyeItTight and his new Britain Rockruff. I apologize for this being a post-com. I recorded this live, but I didn't realize that OBS wasn't capturing my microphone, so this, along with my next two IBL videos, are going to be post-com. Again, I'm really sorry, this wasn't intentional, but at any rate, let's go ahead, let's get into it. Please make sure to go check him out, Jayson, in the description below. As well as the rest of the BBR coaches. It's an amazing roster, and I've had so much fun this season. Now, let's go over our matchup. As if you've been following along with our season, you guys know that our team consists of Roaring Moon, Rotom Wash, Hisuian Lilligant, Terra Snorlax, Screamtail, Tinkaton, Torkoal, Mudsdale, Decidueye, Charizard, and Swalot, whilst our opponent has Deoxys, Iron Hands, Enamorus, Empoleon, Crocodile, Terra Cyclizar, Diancie, Ogerpon, and Quillfish. My opponent has a very scary team, and just about anything has a capacity to come, with a ton of diversity on this team as well. So we definitely have our work cut out for us. But let's go ahead, let's go over the team that we are bringing this week. Alright, now, with our team builder, you guys see that we are bringing Roaring Moon this week, Wendigo, who's been very good for us this season. You're going to see that we're bringing the Clear Amulet with Dragon Claw, Earthquake, Iron Head, and Dragon Dance. Wendigo is pretty much here to outspeed everything not named Deoxys before setting a +1, and hopefully be in a position against something like the Quillfish to get up a Dragon Dance and start punching holes in my opponent's team, or being a late game cleaner if, if the plan calls for it. But I think Roaring Moon has a fantastic matchup this week, and I definitely think we could start punching some holes if we can set this up properly, especially with the Sun this week. Three, two, one. Alright, and first up we are bringing Wendigo, the Roaring Moon, with the Clear Amulet, mainly because of the multiple Intimidators on my opponent's team, with the Photosynthesis ability, of course, with the Dragon Claw, Earthquake, Iron Head, and Dragon Dance, with 32 HP, 220 attack, 4 defense, 252 in speed with a Jolly Nature. Wendigo is here mainly to outspeed everything not named Deoxys before setting up a +1, and hopefully be in a position against something like the Quillfish to set up a Dragon Dance and start punching holes in my opponent's team, or being a late game cleaning option if the plan changes. But I think Roaring Moon has a fantastic matchup this week, and I'm definitely excited to see what we can do for it this week. Next up, you guys are going to see Big Sploosh making his return this week with the Rocky Helmet. Pretty much max HP, max defense, with a Bold Nature, Volt Switch, Hydro Pump, Pain Split, and Will-O-Wisp. Rotom is here mainly as a Crook and Iron Hands check. Will-O-Wisp allows us to burn both of those physical threats mainly, and Pain Split is going to allow us to gain some recovery off of his team from some of his bulkier mons like the Diancie or the Empoleon or something, or just whatever we can get it to use with, and just keep this thing around as much as possible because it is very important for our game plan. If we want to weaken that Iron Hands as much as possible, we're gonna need Rotom to do it. Next up, we are bringing Mohala, the Hisuian Lilligant, with the Clear Amulet. Like I said, my opponent has multiple Intimidators this week, and I definitely think they could show up, and I'm really not in the mood to deal with a -1 every time he wants to. We're bringing Chlorophyll this week. I'm not trying to get haxed out because of Hustle, Solar Blade, Close Combat, Triple Axle, and Victory Dance. With 104 HP, 252 attack, 152 speed with a Jolly Nature. With this, we're going to be outspeeding the Crocodile before setting up a +1. After that, it's pretty much going to be the same thing with Roaring Moon, that we're going to outpace basically everything, barring a couple of certain Scarfers. But yeah, this is my main win con this week. I am going to try to set up with this, and I think if we can set this up properly, Lilligant is going to start punching holes in teams, and I really think we could absolutely decimate my opponent's team. Dual Stab is incredibly free into 99% of this team. The only thing that stops that, really, is the Enamorus, and we have Triple Axle, so we're not too worried about that. If I can get a +1, we can start punching holes in his team and do a ton of damage. Next up, we are bringing Panquake, making his return this week with the Leftovers and the Immunity ability, mainly because my opponent doesn't really have any sort of, like, fire or ice mons or coverage that's really threatening. He doesn't even have a fire type on his team, so for me, bringing in Thick Fat is kind of pointless. Now, if he brings like a Specs Deoxys with Ice Beam or something, that could be a little bit different, but even then, he's gonna rather click Psycho Boost, and I'd rather just, deal with that. With Body Slam, Earthquake, Curse, and Protect, we're gonna be hitting basically everything on this team for either neutral or super effective. We are literally bringing Earthquake specifically for Diancie, because otherwise, even at +6, that thing, if he's physically defensive, takes like 35%. It doesn't do shit. We are max HP, max defense with a careful nature, only because this actually allows us to take hits from the Enamorous significantly better. We're Terra Fairy this week to mainly take advantage of things like the Cyclizar, but also so we don't have to worry about the focus blasting Enamorous as much, or really at all at that point. And I don't think he's going to really pack Sludge Bomb. I don't think it's necessary this week. But yeah, if we can set up Snorlax properly, if we can get a couple of curses up, we can absolutely start punching holes in this team and definitely do some damage. Next up, we have Franklin the Torkoal with the Heat Rock this week. Stealth Rock, Lava Plume, Earth Power, and Rapid Spin, max physically defensive. Nothing super complicated with Torkoal. It's kind of just been a sunsetter for us this season, and this week is no different. We're bringing pretty much the same set we've brought all season. We're just trying to keep the sun up for our Roaring Moon and our Lilligant. You're gonna try and keep those hazards up against our opponent and try and keep them off of the field for us. Otherwise, that's pretty much Franklin's role, is just to keep hazards up on his side and keep them off of our side, along with keeping sun up as much as possible. Next up, we have Hapu the Mudsdale making her return this week with the leftovers, Earthquake, Heavy Slam, Iron Defense, and Roar. We are fully specially defensive just because taking hits from like the Enamorous or something of that nature is very important to us, and this is a really, really, really good Diancie check. We have Heavy Slam specifically for Diancie. I was kind of toying around with a couple of moves instead of it, but ultimately I feel like just being able to absolutely nuke Diancie for just so much damage, because we can do almost, I think we will knock it out from full unless he's like max Bizdef or has a BBR. But otherwise, guys, that is going to do it for this team builder. Let's go ahead and get right into the battle. Yo guys, what's going on? It's Rose here, bringing y'all BBR Week 8 versus DyeItTight and his new Britain Rockruff. Let's go ahead, let's get right into the battle. As you can see, my opponent has brought Iron Hands, Crocodile, Empoleon, Deoxys Speed, Cyclizar, and Quillfish. Pretty much what we expected. There's no Diancie, but otherwise, that's the ones I expected. We're going to lead off with Rotom, as it's a great counterplay to any sort of lead Crocodile or Iron Hands, or Quillfish, but he actually is going to be leading off with the Cyclizar, which is Terra Dragon this week. Rotom does take a hit from this. However, because of how important Rotom is to our game plan into switching into things like Iron Hands and Crocodile, I don't want to take too much damage on this early on. I'm contemplating staying in, maybe clicking Pain Split, but instead we're going to go into something that's a little more expendable here in Mudsdale. Mudsdale is a little more expendable because there's no Diancie this week. Now, on this turn, he's actually going to Terra into that Dragon type turn 1, and he's actually going to be going for the Draco Meteor, which is going to do a chunk to this Mudsdale. Going to do about half. Unfortunately, my opponent misses, which is incredibly unfortunate for him. It's going to force him to U-turn out this turn, which is good for us. We get a defense boost on any sort of mon coming in. He's going to be bringing out the Deoxys Speed, which, as you can see, is going to be having the Air Balloon, which is phenomenal prep on my opponent's part. As you can see, he avoids the Earthquake coming off of our Mudsdale. We are going to be staying in as he Ice Beams, revealing that he's a pretty bulky Deoxys, and we're going to Heavy Slam popping that Air Balloon, doing about 35 or so to this. I did contemplate going into Snorlax very early, however, I didn't want to allow Iron Hands in for free this week, this early into the game. So I'm just going to stay in and click Earthquake. We do a chunk with Earthquake here. And because of that damage, we know he's not super bulky, and we know he's not going to do too much with Ice Beam. He's going to Ice Beam again, as we are going to click Earthquake on this hit, which is going to do about 40%, which is what we kind of expected to do for like a decently bulky Deoxys. And we're, again, we are just kind of going through these motions. I really want to go into Snorlax here, because if I can get a curse or two up with Snorlax, we can do a ton of work. But we're just going to stay in. I don't want to allow in the Iron Hands for free. He's going to recover this turn as we Earthquake again, negating most of the health that he's gotten off of that recover. And we're just, every single time we're doing this, we are just, again, contemplating whether or not we go into Snorlax here. Every single time, I'm thinking, do I bring in Snorlax? I can take the hits from it, but I don't want to allow this thing to recover for free. I don't want to allow the Iron Hands to come in for free. I don't want Crook coming in. I don't want anything coming in for free, and I don't want this thing to recover for free. So we're just gonna, hit it again, do about 40% like we did the last time, and we're kind of locked into a stalemate here. We could potentially see him try and recover again this turn, or we could see him maybe hit us again with the Ice Beam, as we see him hit us with Ice Beam one more time, as we're going to put an Earthquake on this and knock it almost all the way out. If we got a crit, we definitely would have knocked it out. But this thing is on the brink. It is super close to being knocked out. And we're going to see him Psycho Boost us this turn. We expect to go down. However, Mudsdale, with our immense special bulk this week, lives the hit on 7 HP, knocking out Deoxys. An amazing, amazing showing from a very valuable Mon this entire season, honestly. Mudsdale has been phenomenal the entire season. I absolutely have enjoyed using it. I've used it a couple times in the past, and honestly, I'm probably going to continue using it. It is phenomenal for what the value of it is. He's going to bring in the Cyclizar and Draco, as he's not going to miss this time, however. He is going to knock us out with the Draco Meteor, which is perfectly fine. At that point, Mudsdale brought no value. Potentially it brought value as a sack later on in the game, but at this moment in time, I don't want to take any damage on anything. I'm going to bring in Snorlax for free and absolutely set up a curse. With seeing no Diancie this week, I'm really kind of regretting not bringing Body Slam, Curse, Rest, and Sleep Talk as my set. I was very, very close to doing so. However, I didn't want to just allow the Diancie to completely wall Snorlax this week, so I packed on the Earthquake, and now I'm kind of like, I wish I brought the Rest Talk set. He is going to U-turn out with his Cyclizar, as we're going to Curse up. He could easily bring in one of his Intimidators. He can bring in the Iron Hands. We're going to see the Quillfish come in right now. We're going to Curse up. We're going to be at neutral attack because of the Intimidate. And here, I want to Curse up again. I can easily Curse in front of this thing. He can't Toxic me because of my immunity ability. So cursing is pretty free on this thing. I definitely don't expect him to do too much damage to me. He's actually going to swap out. He's going to be swapping into his Crocodile, bringing in his other Intimidator, basically just trying to prevent us from setting up any sort of curses, which is fair play on his part. It doesn't really cost him a whole lot of anything. It's just giving me a little bit of information as to what he has. Yeah, definitely. I do want to set up another curse here. I feel like Curse is very, very free. Let's just set up once more time, and we are going to Curse as he knocks our leftovers off, which is unfortunate. It seems like every time I bring leftovers on this Snorlax, it gets knocked off almost immediately, which I think is hysterical. I definitely... he does actually close combat this turn. Doesn't do very much damage, which we kind of expected to do not that much damage. However, it did a little less than we were expecting, which kind of shows us that this is a bulkier Crocodile. It doesn't have as much attack investment as we, were kind of expecting. He is going to swap out here back into the Quillfish. We're going to get up a Body Slam and do a decent chunk to this thing. We're going to be doing about half, and we're going to be getting the we're going to be getting the paralysis, and knowing now that this is a Rocky Helmet Quillfish, which is immense and very valuable information. Now, we are going to start, I do want to start cursing up again, but I'm going to Earthquake just in case he decides to stay in, and he actually swaps into the Crocodile to take the hit, doing, again, absolutely negligible damage due to all the Intimidate drops and the bulk that this Crook has. It does about 10, maybe 15% if we're lucky. We're going to go ahead and Terra Fairy here and set up a Curse, as I think he's probably going to want to swap into the Quillfish again. He does swap out. However, this time he brings in the Empoleon, which definitely is interesting because I just revealed Earthquake and he immediately brings in his Empoleon, which, depending on the spread, can put in a lot of work against my team. We're going to Curse up. We do take any one hit from this Empoleon. Flash Cannon does about 35 to 40% if he's max special attack, which he's brought some offensive Empoleons like Scarf Empoleon earlier in the season, so it would not surprise me in the slightest. He is going to show the Flash Cannon here, which actually knocks us out, revealing that he is a Choice Specs variant. He is a Choice Specs Empoleon. That is the only possible way he knocks us out. Well, unless he were to be like Life Orb or anything like that, but obviously we don't see the Life Orb pop, therefore we know this is a Choice Specs Empoleon, which, not entirely surprised, he's brought it once or twice this season already. He's brought Choice Specs, he's brought Choice Scarf, so I'm not surprised at all that he wants to be doing this in what is a very, very important game for both of us this season. Trying to figure out what I want to bring in here. I do believe that Lilligant forces a lot of forces a lot of movement around with my opponent's team, but we're actually going to be bringing in Rotom just because I can get a free Volt Switch out, forcing him out, which is very, very nice for us. We're going to be able to force this thing out and prevent him from doing too much more damage. He is going to be swapping out like we expected. He is going to go into the Cyclizar as we Volt Switch, doing absolutely no damage because of, well, it being a Dragon type, as well as we did find out earlier, we do find out that he is an Assault Vest variant. He's a very bulky Assault Vest variant of Cyclizar. We're going to actually find out right here by going into Torkoal on this thing. I want to set up rocks. It is very, very good into my opponent's team. We do take a Draco, which is very, very important for us. We do take it living on about 27, maybe 30% max. We get the Stealth Rocks up, which he definitely could be packing Rapid Spin onto this thing. If he is, it's not the biggest deal, in all honesty. We're going to take the Rapid Spin off here. He's going to get rid of those Stealth Rocks, and we're going to Earth Power, and right there, we should have done around 20%. We did maybe 7% with Earth Power. So that is going to show us that he is a Assault Vested Cyclizar. And we're going to get up those rocks again. We're going to be swapping out just because I want to preserve the Sun to potentially bring in Torkoal again later to potentially set up with Lilligant or Roaring Moon. We're going to be swapping into the Rotom on the Rapid Spin, which I fully expected. Because of the +3 speed he is at, he now will outspeed everything on my team, even in Sun. Now, considering he does have a special attack drop, it's not as big of a deal that he's doing this now, because he can't do that much damage to begin with. I believe we Volt Switch out here on a potential swap. I don't believe he wants to stay in. He does end up staying in. Clicking Draco does like 25-ish%, not a whole lot of damage. We're going to be Hydro Pumping here, actually, doing about the same amount of damage as he just did to us. I do still value Rotom very, very much. It is phenomenal as an Iron Hands check. It is phenomenal as a Crook check. Considering Iron Hands, the electric moves are going to be neutral against us, and, Crook, we are immune to the Earthquakes, and Knockoff is not going to do too much damage because of, well, us being max Phys Def. After much contemplation on this turn, we are going to be, I believe we actually Volt Switch out here. Yes, we Volt Switch out. He U-turns out, gets a little bit more Rocky Helmet chip, which is not super, doesn't matter too much because he's a regenerator, so it really doesn't matter. He brings in the Empoleon as we do about 50% to it with that Volt Switch. Now, we are going to be bringing in the Lilligant because it forces this thing to switch out with a fear of a close combat. We decide to make an aggressive double here back into our Rotom, as he decides to Ice Beam with his Empoleon here to try and get a little bit of damage off, potentially on me setting up. Now, like I said, Rotom comes in here, and we take a little bit from this Ice Beam. We take about 25%. And we're going to be pain splitting off this damage, potentially on this, or if he wants to bring something else in, and he does swap here, he does decide to preserve the Empoleon here. He brings in the Cyclizar, which just did a, recovery with his Regenerator ability. We are going to we need to figure out what we want to do with this. At this point, this Cyclizar can still put on a decent bit of pressure. Now here, I believe we go into Torkoal. We do go into Torkoal here, sacking it off while getting Sun Up one last time for Roaring Moon and Lilligant. Just on the off chance that he Dracos, he could miss his Draco as well. I don't expect that to happen. Now, we are going to get the Sun, like I said, one last time, just for Roaring Moon and Lilligant. He does Draco, he does connect this time, knocking us out. Torkoal, you did not die in vain. This was a very necessary, move for us to make. We're going to be bringing in the Lilligant, who has been a very good Mon for us since we traded for it right at the trade deadline. We're going to Victory Dance because he cannot do that much damage to me, considering he is -2. He is going to be bringing in the Iron Hands. We're going to be clicking that Victory Dance, and depending on this thing's spread, we can do absolute chunks to it with a +1 Solar Blade. However, we do take, if he has max attack Adamant, we take less than half from an Ice Punch if we were to Victory Dance again because of those defense boosts. And that is actually what we're going to do right here. We're going to Victory Dance, get up to +2 attack, +2 defense, and +2 speed. Now I can absolutely start chunking things with Lilligant. Does about 35%, which shows that he is not very offensive. We are going to Solar Blade here, which I'm actually really glad I got to bring Solar Blade. I've never brought it before, so this was really cool to bring it. We are going to find out that he is Rocky Helmet, which is super unfortunate. I also did not know that Solar Blade was a contact move, because I've never brought it before, and I've never really seen it brought. Now we are going to Solar Blade again, hoping that we knock this thing out, while at the same time living the Rocky Helmet chip. We do knock out the Iron Hands, which is super, super, super good for us. But we are unable to live the Rocky Helmet chip. Now, super unfortunate. I felt like Lilligant, honestly, in that position, could have just absolutely ripped apart this team. With +2 attack and with the Clear Amulet, we definitely killed the Quillfish, and would have definitely been things might have gone a little bit differently, but that's all right. Honestly, with him having the Rocky Helmet on the Quillfish as well, it wouldn't have done too much more after that. He brings in the Crocodile as we bring in Roaring Moon, revealing we are Speed Booster, and we are Clear Amulet as well. I did not want to fuck around with Intimidates, so definitely something I didn't want to deal with this week. I believe I make an aggressive double here into Rotom on the off chance that he Earthquakes here, trying to get some chip off. Now we bring in Rotom here, hoping that he Earthquakes, and we did get that correct, which is phenomenal. We are currently down 2-4, but it's honestly, the game is not over yet. This is still a very winnable game. Now here I just keep making aggressive plays because I feel like I need to get back into this game. I make an aggressive play, Volt switching on the Quillfish swap in. Now I actually need this Volt switch to not kill, so I can bring in Roaring Moon and start setting up Dragon Dances. However, that does not happen here. We do end up killing the Quillfish. I think it was a roll in... I think it was a roll to kill from that range, since he was at 50. And I don't believe the roll... I think the roll was in our favor not to kill, if that makes sense. I don't think I've ever rooted against a knockout in a Draft League game before for myself. But here we are. There's a first for everything. We are forced to bring in the Roaring Moon, which definitely didn't want to do that just quite yet. Now, the only play I really have at this point is to double back into the Rotom, because close combat under any circumstance will knock out Roaring Moon from full, unless he's like a minus attack nature for some reason. But we have to bring in the Rotom. We have to get some chip damage off with the Rocky Helmet. We do take the hit from this thing, which is super, super, super important. And the sun goes away, which is fine, because we were speed booster and not attack booster. The sun wasn't super, super, super important for Roaring Moon. He does bring out the Cyclizar, which I thought was an interesting play at the time. We get up to half from the Cyclizar with the Pain Split, and we are going to Volt Switch just on the off chance he like misses a Draco or something, or we live a Draco, which I believe was a roll at this range to live the Draco, even with Terra Dragon, I believe, because with the damage he's done in the past, we knew that he's not a super offensive Cyclizar. However, he does end up picking up the kill here. Just nothing is really going our way in this game, which is super unfortunate. We do see the drop from the Draco Meteor. We bring in Roaring Moon, and at this point, there's a little bit of an uphill battle for us. We need to essentially set up a Dragon Dance, hope that he Dracos again here, so I can maybe get up another Dragon Dance. However, he U-turns. Now, at this point, what I really, really, really need is for Crook to be in range of a +1 Dragon Claw. Depending on his spread, this is a damage roll at the current range. We did about 70% on a roll. We don't get the roll. That roll affected without getting on that, without getting that kill. That does end our season. A super unfortunate way to end the season. But regardless, I have no regrets in this season. Thank you guys so much for watching this season. This has been phenomenal. I have learned so much this season between battling and content. I've met so many great people, had so many great games, and I definitely cannot thank you guys enough for tuning in and supporting me this season. And I cannot thank the BBR mod team and everyone enough for allowing me in this season. I want to thank my front office for help with consistent prep over the season, as well as one of my good buddies, Gentleman Thomas, who I would come to every now and again, almost every week, honestly, in this league. I would come to him for some prep help, and without him, I probably would not have even been in this position. So definitely go ahead, check out my opponent and the rest of the BBR coaches down below. Jayson is in playoffs. We are not, and like I said, that is effectively going to end our season. But thank you guys so much for tuning in for this season, and I will see you guys in the next Draft League. Peace out.